G'day everyone, how you going? It's Dom Italiano, host of The Sustainable Creative Show. This is episode number 6 with Damian Cafarella, and Damian is a multi-instrumentalist and producer from Melbourne, Australia, who works mostly in the Americana and country music scene. It's really interesting to have a chat with him about being someone who's maybe behind the scenes and not the name act up the front, and also just generally about the music industry. It was really, really interesting, and maybe Damian will be the producer of some music for me in the future, fingers crossed. Next week I've got Simon Imrie. We have a chat in his lounge room. Simon's a singer-songwriter, and he's probably the hardest working guy I know. So that was a really interesting chat, and I know you'll like that one too. In the meantime, subscribe to the podcast, and if you can, send me any feedback that you've got or any suggestions. I welcome anything that you've got to say. And look, have a great week, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye. Damian Cafarella.
Good to see you, Dom.
Thank you for having me at your studio.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming by.
I might take one of those panoramic shots and just go, I got to hang out in here today with a lovely gentleman.
Very good.
Just so you know, who I'm talking about.
I've never been called that before.
No, you're a lovely gentleman. I remember when I first met you in, I think, March last year, getting ready for Della Harris's EP launch.
Yeah.
And I rocked up, and you were there behind a drum kit.
Yeah.
Right. And then I found out later on that you're also this monster guitar player. And I was like, is there anything else this guy can do? And then it turns out you produce music as well and play banjo and mandolin. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's like my hero.
I'm not good at any of those things.
which that's not true. But there is something that I observe with people like you, and this is just my observation, you might not feel this way, but you will go, I'll have a go. I'll see what I can do with that.
Yeah.
And if what I can do serves the project well, as opposed to my ego, because sometimes you'll see creative people go, oh, well, it serves my ego, and then you actually feel like you want to say to them, let someone else do that.
Yeah.
But you're someone who seems, it appears to me anyway, that understands where, yes, I can manage that and serve the project, or no, maybe someone else should do that.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine was what helps you as a producer, where you know the difference between I'll do that or someone else can do it.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between getting a sound onto a record.
Yeah.
And really playing an instrument. Like in the wilds, like I've set myself a few goals where I want to be able to play some very basic piano, but only ever for the purpose of getting the sound on the record.
Yeah.
When we need a piano part, like Lachlan is a much better piano player.
So for anyone that doesn't know, you play in a band called Lachlan, Brian and the Wilds, right? And have done for quite a while.
A couple of years, yeah. 3 years, I think.
Yeah. And you produced the last record?
The last record, and I co-produced the one before that with the band.
Yeah. And so what you said about getting a sound, so for anyone who, it doesn't play music, might be listening, there's quite often the difference between having a B-roll kind of sound / noise in the background that adds a bit of depth or something like that.
Yeah.
And then this is an actual instrumental part of
a professional doing what they do best.
Yeah.
And with a lot of the things that I do, I like I have no desire to, like as a producer, I just want to see things moving forward. Yeah. And sometimes I go, I'll see a mandolin and I'll say, it seems to me that the fingers and the right hand operates in a very similar way to a guitar, which I understand.
Which a mandolin player would scream at you and say...
He would be furious. Yeah. He would be furious. But I just took his job. So no, I'm kidding. That's a joke. I couldn't really play a mandolin.
Do you know what? I've got a mandolin and I've tried to learn to play it.
Yeah.
And I went for a mandolin lesson with Luke Muller.
Yep. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, this is how you hold a mandolin pick. And I went, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm a guitar player. Like and this is how you pick. And it's like, oh, that's the tone of the that's that's why I can't get a mandolin to sound like a mandolin. For me, it just sounds like a capo on a guitar.
Yeah.
It's like, so you like the tricks of the trade that you get from someone who actually plays the
instrument. Yeah. And a couple of those can get you a long way.
Yeah.
Like I'll be honest, the way that it had been explained to me before, where it's like, all right, so you play the guitar, which is tuned in fourths.
Yeah.
And this is the same, but it's tuned in fifths. Whereas I have a tendency when I'm approaching an instrument to anything that I can see in it that I can relate back to the guitar, which I spent a lot of time with.
Yeah.
I go, all right. So the way that I actually learned to get the sound of a mandolin onto records is we're tuned E, A, D, G, B, E, and a mandolin is G, D, A, E. And I went, it's the top 4 strings of a guitar upside down.
Yeah.
And so that I straight away had chord shapes, just my little Asperger's way of learning.
That's interesting that you can actually still go, and upside down and still make it work. Whereas I would just retune the mandolin so it's the top 4 strings of the guitar.
Yeah, right.
Fine, now I'm done. And I have.
Yeah.
Just for anyone at home. We've just done a little bit of a preamble, and I guess if this is the first time anyone's listened to this, this will be, I believe, episode 6 of my podcast show of the Sustainable Creative. And what I wanted to do is talk to people like yourself who are living in the real world. And I say that, I mean, we're not Britney Spears or Usher or someone like that who got lots and lots of money and, basically everyone else does that's not fair to say. Other people do a lot of their creative groundwork for them, and then they perhaps show up in the studio and do their bit and then, go off and do the publicity because they do all that stuff. Yeah. But we are people who are kind of managing real life and creative projects as well. Yeah. And as I'm a performing cover musician as my job, you are a self-employed producer as well as a guy that plays music stuff. Yeah. But one of the...
I think they're really the same. Like a producer, I'm really just a musician. I can record.
Well, even that though. I mean, like for example, like I'm a musician and I can press record and play, but I can't mix. There are the deeper levels of what you do that I don't have. I have not acquired skills in. And which is why, as I said, just a few minutes ago, like you seem to be someone who goes, I'll give that a go. And I guess that's how people acquire skills is they'll give it a go for a while and then, suck for a while and then like get some tips and tricks and then like,
absolutely.
And I guess I wanted to talk to people. So the first 5 people I've spoken to on the podcast are, the very first one was an osteopath who's also an artist.
Yeah, right.
And then the last 4 have been musicians who are the name of their act as well. Yeah. And you would be the first person who is like a support player in the band. So it's not DamianCafarella.com. And I find I wanted to talk to you like I sort of set that up before saying that I met you as a drummer and then saw you as a guitarist, I've got an album that you produced. It's like, this guy does a bunch of different roles as a creative. Yeah. But not just a creative, but like as probably a counsellor and all that kind of stuff, which you would do as producer.
I'm not so good at counselling.
Well, sometimes not saying anything is. What's that terrible, brilliant song? Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton.
Oh, I've not heard it.
All right. It's like it's that song where like everything about it sounds amazing. They sing great. Yeah. Right. It's a cool piece of music. Yeah. And the lyric is say something, say something, say something, and the whole song doesn't say anything.
Oh,
like it's a song
one of those irony pieces.
Well, I was just like, is this too clever for its own good? Or like, I often think, and I've said this, like, I often think that I'm not ready for something.
Yeah.
Like if I hear it and go, I don't connect with that, and it's like, oh, that's not about that. That's about me.
Yeah, right.
And there's something about that song was like,
well, that's a very mature stance to take.
I want to love this. Everything else about it's great, but the lyric is literally contradicting itself. And I'm like,
yeah, right. We're gonna have to Spotify that later on.
Yeah,
I want to hear it.
The music video, I'll add, the music video is live. So it starts off with Timberlake, like creating a beat, like on one of those things, right? And then walking off, and the camera follows him, and they walk around this massive warehouse, and different instruments and singers come in at the right points of the song. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And you can totally get over the weird lyric thing.
Yeah.
Like by watching the video.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, anyway, moving on. So, what if I ask you a question and we just go from there?
Yeah. By all means.
Cool. So, something I've noticed, and so you work in sort of the Australian country Americana scene predominantly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As both producer and player.
Yeah.
And what I've spoken to a few other people I've spoken to so far, from an outsider's point of view and looking in at their social media presence and how they said, like, someone's releasing another video and someone's got an album coming out and they're going on tour. It's easy for us to look at how apparently productive and how they've got their shit together. Other people are, and then compare yourself and go, well, how do they do it? And then when you talk to them, they go, this has been a 5-year project. What you're seeing is actually something I started years ago, and it just seems like we're always putting stuff out, but really we're actually just working on stuff all day, every day. And I guess why I want to tie that back into the Americana country thing, it seems like from the outside, so many of the artists on, say, like Lachlan's level, like John Flanagan and Greta Zilla, and those guys, Mitch Power, those guys who always seem to be doing something with someone, which they clearly are, but it's the genre that seems to be really supportive of bringing people in and then showing up for other people at their time. So the community that I don't see in like the pop acts around Melbourne, or so like everyone seems to be doing their own thing. But your genre seems to be like you guys show up for each other.
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely true. There's definitely a community that goes on with it. I feel like pop music has always been the hardest one. Like, it's funny that you mentioned pop music. Like I feel like when I was 18, I was in a pop band and played guitar on a lot of dance records and stuff as well. Because our manager was an incredible dance music producer, and just seeing like it was a different world, because even still, after having worked as a musician since I got out of high school 15 years ago, like I still don't know where you would perform pop music.
Sure.
Like I don't know how you generate a fan base. I don't know like I understand how you make the records, but you can't get up in a pub,
right,
and do what Kylie Minogue does. Everybody goes, this person is very strange.
Yeah, okay. That's really interesting.
Whereas I feel like with country music, people get very attached to the stories. The artists are there for each other for a lot of reasons, and bottom line, all those people that you just mentioned are friends of ours, and they're really great people and really excellent musicians. You know, like and so.
I mean, I live in this kind of crossover world in a way, in that I know when everyone's gigs are, right? But I work almost every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and
can't get there.
I'm at work, and it's it is the one drawback of being professional musician, performing musician.
Absolutely.
Is that you go to work when everyone else goes to work.
Yeah.
You know, when everyone else is doing gigs.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm really aware of the community and the scene, right? But I'm not in it, right? And I feel like this is my opportunity to talk to people in a scene that I feel like I'm kind of
connect with.
part of.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the fact that if someone's got a record comes out, I buy it and I listen to it and I love it, and I send a message saying, oh, that's really, I love this, but I can't come to the gig. Or I do the thing with Simon Imri's thing. I was like, I can get to the first set or maybe 5 songs.
But then I gotta skedaddle.
But I do think that's important to kind of to do what you can when you can. But it's something that you're right about the pop music thing. I wonder if the version of the pop music thing is like, well, that's what cover bands fill that hole. Like in that sense of,
I wonder.
Like, you know, the Kylie Minogues of the world are creating the music for us to play.
Yeah.
And if they want to play it, they've got to fill Rod Laver.
and this is the interesting thing. Like the cover bands will play the music by the people that fill your Rod Laver. But who's deciding? I don't know. Maybe there's a promoter that just jams it down people's throats so hard, and maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
I would have never, just to anyone, I wouldn't recommend jamming anything down anyone's throats so hard. That's a different podcast. So getting a little bit further down to that layer of the community thing, as someone who is a member of that scene, I don't mean to use the word scene and stuff like it's a...
Yeah, like we have our cards.
Well, yeah, like it's... I don't mean to cheapen it because like I said, I really admire it. And I see it.
It's a good community.
Yeah, and what was the video? It was the Careless Hearts video.
Yes.
And it was like, I was like, oh, that's a music video of a community. It's not a music... So Careless Hearts is a song by Lachlan Bryan and the Wilds off the new album. And it's an observation video. It's almost like, oh, this is our crew. And it was like, oh, that makes sense.
And that was the idea. Like the idea with it, it was, we knew that we needed a video. We were in Tamworth. That was all shot in Tamworth. And they have a night called Late Night Alt. Alt being short for alternative country music. And everybody shows up there after their gigs are finished, you know, and you know, probably only 2 or 3 acts play on the night, maybe 3 or 4. And everybody's there. Everybody has a drink. Everybody uses it as the time that we don't have. That you were just talking about. And we're like, it's such a rare and great thing to have that. Like, we want to kind of capture a bit of the spirit of that, and you know, what is good about it. Because the other thing that is true is that within the country music industry, it's very common for, you know, there is sometimes a bit of the hipster attitude of like, oh, well, Tamworth's no good. Tamworth's no good. You know,
what's that? A
little bit of folded arms about it. Well, only because...
Hang on, let me just set the scene for you. What's that about?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't come from us, but there's definitely things like if you're going to be part of a niche genre, then you're always going to have to find your people, right? And the alternative country crowd, maybe before I was there, like maybe it wasn't quite as accepting up there, but I've been in the Wilds for 3 years. I've been to 3 Tamworths, and it's been really good. Yeah, you know, like that's how I've found it and viewed it. You know, like, and
do you know what you describe, and you do describe the cover band scene.
Yeah,
there's people who in the cover band scene that act like rock stars. Yeah. You know, they drink the bar tab, and you know they get a bit boisterous at the end of the gig, and they might point people out, just like, you know, we're performing for you. You should shut up, kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
And then there's the rest of us are like, you know, just like we're here to do our job, and if you want to be part of it, great. But if you don't want to be part of it, great. You know, we'll work around the scenario. And then you're actually you hang out with good people who,
Yeah.
you know, who are good people who aren't rock stars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not saying that. From my understanding too, most of the rock stars who sustain careers don't really act like rock stars. They're just dudes.
Yeah.
Who are just
Absolutely.
Like,
That's been my experience of having met, like a few famous people. I always find them to be humble and down to earth and lovely people. They don't need the facade of all of that, you know. To be honest with you, I think that if you really want to be a rock star these days, you're better off becoming a chef, because they're the real rock stars these days.
That's really interesting. There seems to be a portrayal of chefs, the explosive personality.
Totally. Just charismatic people, you know, and I feel like sometimes, you know, like realistically, it's all about the platform, you know, and I think that you know, chefs are demanding a prime time of television so much these days, and the ones that rise to the top are the ones with the big personalities and are likable for whatever reason. There's a lot of grumpy chefs that aren't going to be rock stars.
Do you think there's this kind of thing about that with chefs, which quite obviously they work in a team where they have, you do that bit, you do that bit, you do that bit, and I do that bit, and they're it's like, what's the phrase? If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Kind of thing. And it's like they actually live in a heated world. They work in a heated world, and like the muso rockstar thing. It's like maybe that's what it used to be like because of the touring demands and there was fuck all money in it, for example. The record company was taking all the money, and they were like going, you know, they were being demanding because if they didn't, they wouldn't, like, they get dropped. It's like the pressure to get fired from the label or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm just hypothesizing.
No.
This is how I live. Like, do you think this? And
4
hours later, I'm still looking out at the window of of my house. I don't get much done.
No. I definitely think that there's parallels between being in a band and a kitchen team. Something that is interesting is I have 2 younger sisters and 1 older brother. All creative, all can play music, all chefs.
Right. Okay.
All qualified chefs. And they play music good.
Yeah.
And I'm just the black sheep. I can cook pretty good, but I'm a musician.
Yeah, right. Look, there's so many. It seems to be parallels too with creativity, food, sustaining your health, your mental health. So if you eat this, you're likely to react like this. If you eat that, you're likely to react like that. If you play this music, they say music is the food for the soul. I don't know who said that. Probably Socrates or someone like that. But it seems that does make sense. Most of the people I know who are musicians, also, when they actually get in a kitchen, they're like, "Wow, I'm going to give this a crack."
Right. Yeah.
But
it's the same with visual art as well. My mum and some of my aunties are visual artists, and we'll, you know, at Christmas we'll be up late and we'll be drinking wine and we'll just be talking about the like all of the comparisons, like the things that directly relate to each other, like, you know, and I might say, you know, basically there was this thing I was working on the other day, and, you know, I had this guitar part and it was way too loud, and the way that registers in their head is like, that's like,
the colour's loud
when you overdo your blues, or whatever it might be, you know.
I've said to people before, and it's I don't think this is something that I've come up with, but it's something I've worded in my way, which is I feel like what humans are perpetual problem solvers. Like we move on, we basically, and I've used...
And problem makers.
Well, yeah, but that's...
Sorry.
No, you're right, because what happens when you solve a problem, you create a new series of things to solve.
Right.
In that idea of and I've said this before on this podcast, but we're thirsty, right? So we drink.
Yeah.
And then you create the issue of, I now need to empty my bladder.
You're right.
And then you create the issue of, now I have to wash my hands. Or do I? Like the conundrum, you know.
I think you wash your hands.
You think you wash your hands. But there's basically you just move on from, I do this thing, and now I have this other thing to contend with, this other thing. And so there's that idea that, of course, every person, whether we're a musician or artist, we're all creative in that way, that we have to continue to
that's
solve
true.
a problem and move on to another problem.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I've noticed about people who gravitate towards things like music or art or cooking is they can really zone in on the specifics of a problem that perhaps people who aren't into those things don't see or hear.
Yeah.
So when you said earlier about, say, maybe as a keyboard player, you're not a piano player, right? But this needs a bit or a sound or a noise to fill that thing. And like most other people, like don't see that, don't even identify that as a problem that needs to be solved. When they're in it. And then, but once you've added that and someone hears it and then you take it away, they're like, what's missing? Same thing with...
And that's creativity.
That is creativity. But herbs and spices and things like, add a bit of salt to this. It's like, what's your secret ingredient? Salt. Salt. And I've even in those few conversations I've had, I've noticed that as a common theme of people identifying problems to solve and then really going after them.
Yeah.
And
I think, I also think, you know, further to that, there's I just want to word this right. When there are those problems and you're the person that is responsible for coming up with the answers, I think the way that you become good at that is not fearing what comes next. See, I worry all of the time, but my worry is only ever about stuff being good.
Right.
And
as in you've done something and then is it good enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
The final product. A few weeks ago, I was playing at Gympie with Andrew Swift and Greta Ziller, and they booked some of my favourite musicians in their band, and it was like, and I knew that this gig was going to be such a pleasure. Great songs, great people, you know, excellent musicians, and in that situation, I always managed to convince myself that, you know, what are you doing here? You catastrophize it, and you learn the songs. You know that you know the songs, and leading up to it, you just go, you know, like, is it going to fall apart? Like, you just catastrophize everything about that particular gig, and to me, like, that might to the listeners, there's a good chance they're going, this guy's crazy, but the reality of that for me is that's my way of ensuring that it's always good. So I don't worry about learning the tunes. I don't worry about anything. I worry about getting on stage and the drum riser falling apart.
Right.
And me tripping over someone's cable and destroying something that they need on the gig. And what if the things that you can't possibly rehearse. What if I break a stick in that bit that I've got to hit really hard? I don't know what part I'm going to break it in. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. But me worrying about all of that stuff for some reason and turning myself really great. Melinda my wife Melinda will 100% back up all of this because she has to live with it in the weeks leading up.
Is that your version of creating a heightened situation so that you're living on the edge and so that you're taking focused energy into the situation. Does that make sense? So you know when I don't know. Are you into sport at all?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you'll like you see or hear about the professional sports people like in the locker room half an hour before the game, and they're in their world. They do their meditation or they're listening to their preparing soundtrack.
Yeah.
They've got their ritual. It's like, do you think that's your version of prepping for the game?
Yeah.
And so you get kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. And you get out there and you don't, but you're in a zone.
Yeah.
You're in the zone, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Because once you get on stage and you start playing the first song and it has a groove about it and everybody's feeling good, then it's then that it disappears for me.
Yeah, cool.
And the other thing that I'll say as well is like I'm in no way using this as advice. I don't think this is the healthiest way to deal with these sorts of situations. Yeah. But it's kind of like and the same thing when I'm making records. I don't go, oh, this needs a keyboard, or does it? Or does it need that piano part? Like, oh, can I play it? Like, I don't worry about that. I'm quite happy to throw stuff at it.
Yeah.
What I am nervous about is making hundreds of those decisions on a song and then playing it for the artist and them going, yeah, I just don't like it.
Right. Right.
So the things that I worry myself with are a lot, a lot further down the track,
Cool. That does lead me to a question I prepared.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
It's a carry-on question.
Yeah.
So I've written this down. As producer, have you had to deal with an artist who is in love with their own idea, their lyric or whatever, and and it's not good enough?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you deal with? Hang on, I have to turn the page. How do you deal with getting that idea to be improved? Because what you've just said to me is like, perhaps you do a whole bunch of work on something, and then you'll present it to the person. Maybe they're not around. Maybe you're doing production while they're off doing something else.
Yeah.
And then so perhaps what I'm saying is, that's your version of, here's this thing I made, right? And they are in the producer's shoes at that point, going, it's not good enough, or it's not not right. And so. And the reason I ask this because I often hear things. I think that song that I mentioned before, Justin Timberlake song with Chris Stapleton, both remarkable artists who I love, and who I feel like at sometimes, because of the way the industry is or the caliber of the artist and the fact that they're super creative and capable and great singers, all that stuff, is that particularly lyrics I have a bone of contention with, but lazy things get produced because somebody in the production chair or the A&R guy or the record company, there's no one in those roles, or the people in those roles aren't saying, actually, just this thing needs to be better, or this thing isn't refined yet. Yeah. And I think when people get hired for a job these days, they're just like, well, that's what I'm presented with, so I'll just produce it.
Yeah.
Do you find sometimes that as a producer you're going, the syntax on that sentence is so out of whack, it doesn't make sense, we need to change it? We
always suggest changes.
Yeah, cool.
We're not really very shy about, and when I say we, where possible, Lachlan, the singer for my band, we actually work as a production team. We both do things separately from that too, but where there's a budget. But we're also pretty sensitive to the fact that it's a really a very rapidly changing dynamic, the producer-artist relationship. This is
as in it's changing in the modern era, or even from the first time you meet someone to the arc of the project?
Oh, right. No. Modern era. It is more what I'm talking about. The roles can change that way, but that's less what I'm talking about. I suppose what I mean is, when an artist comes to you these days, 90% of the time they're not getting their money from anywhere else.
it's their money.
Yeah.
They go like,
so they're the A&R guy and the R guy.
the M&R guy.
Is who the producers have answered to in the past. There's been, there's been label people that the producers had to get things past. There have been records that have been recorded, 3 or 4 times over before they've come out because, okay, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Like finished records. Whereas now you work in a situation where the artist is their own A&R person, they're their own marketing people, they're their own everything. So realistically, like in a way that like it's a difficult dynamic because they're paying you to deal with a certain level of quality control.
Do a job.
Right? Yeah. And that's certainly part of it.
Yeah.
But it's not. There is an artist that doesn't always want to hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they have to win, right?
I guess so.
Like, there have been times that we've said strongly.
Yeah.
I really think like let's work on a different tune, and we just want you to
Like
look
your buddy heads for a while. Let's put this one away for a minute.
Yeah. Or can you just sing it with the lyric change? We'll do you a print of that section and
you get to choose.
and have it in your MP3 player. We won't deal with this song again for another few days.
Yeah. Cool.
And the reality is like what makes an expert? Who's the expert? Why are they the expert these days? Especially when it comes to creative things, like it's, and to use the food reference from earlier, sometimes there's things that are equally good, but one person just goes, I don't really like it that much. It's got yogurt in it.
Yeah. Coriander, no coriander.
Yeah, right.
Well, you did posit a great solution for saying, look, let's do 2 versions of this. The one that we're suggesting and the one that you want, and we'll just have them in the bank, and then you don't have to make a choice on it until a later date.
Yeah.
But at least we've got 2 options.
Yeah.
I have a song on my EP that I did that with, in the sense of I wasn't happy with the lyric, or I was confused. I think the chorus is. Well, I don't know. Anyway, I repeat, I do an internal rhyme.
Yeah.
Right? And it's of the same word as well. And I'm like, it's I and I. So it's I. How can I look? Here it is.
EYE.
It is, how can I look you in the eye and then refuse? So it's I and I, 2 different eyes. It's not meant to be clever or like an arty lyric or anything like that. It's actually meant to be, how can I look you in the eye?
Yeah.
Right? But the way I phrase it, right, it just ends up being this thing that sounds a certain way, and I wasn't convinced by it. I was like, is this clumsy? It kind of feels a bit weird. Is it just the way I phrased it when I've sung it in the demo? And the guy who produced it, Andy Zito, he...
Great producer.
Yeah, and really great for me in that project too, because he's like very much like, we're moving on now. I knew he would be, and like lovely guy, but also very much like, this song's finished, man.
Yeah,
because I'm the guy who goes, I can play 100 different solos. I can do this vocal take 50 times. It was like, no, you're doing it 3 times. That's it. We're not doing any more than 3 vocal takes. All right, cool.
There you go.
There you go. I think most of it was, half the EP was 2 vocal takes. And it was like, well, I think he also knows that I'm not going to sing it any better 50 times. I'm just going to sing it fine. But he said, no, I like what that does. It's good. It's actually really good, dude. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
So from the other side, there's as you were saying, like the insecure or the person who's catastrophizing going, this is going to come out and I'm going to hate it.
Yeah.
Because it's, did I write that song specifically like that, or is it just what came out one day and I didn't work on it enough?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But there is a lot to be said for your first go as well. If that's how the pen flowed,
Yeah,
Like,
it's
not always right.
Certainly, that's not how I write lyrics. I mean, I spend months going back and tweaking a word here and getting a rhyming dictionary out. And, I don't think I've really ever had that experience where I go, oh, look, it just came from a divine place in the heavens.
No, I feel that.
Yeah, and I don't want to jinx it. Like, maybe that's what my next song is, but maybe not.
It will be now. I got faith.
So I have a question for you
about
as a producer and in a new world of music consumption, I guess, which is, although you do operate in the last bastion of records, in that scene where alt country is still very much like we're putting out a record. How do you feel about the way we do stuff now, which is, songs are on YouTube, songs are on Spotify. I feel like for me, I've found so much music because of those platforms and ended up going to shows or buying records because they appeared in my suggested listening or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's really great. But I've also never earned a living off selling records. Yeah. So it's not like I would have to give up this thing that I once had. Whereas I'm sure you've worked with plenty of people who's like, well, once we put out a record, we sold 30,000 copies of it, and
I don't work with many people like that.
No, but I mean, even in the scene, though, but you might do the festivals, and there'd be a headliner.
Oh yeah,
a headliner who's like, this is how I used to earn a living, and now no chance.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure, and I obviously don't know everyone's financial situations around what this actually looks like at any other end of it other than my own. But one thing, I think it's so important for people to, because this is a pretty hotly debated topic, and
why I wanted to ask you.
And one of the things, get comfortable, Don. One of the things that people just aren't prepared to understand and give the proper respect to is that, like, when you look at so much of what we do and we talk about as the industry and like it's just so young.
Yeah.
Like it's so young and it's changed forever. Like, the first recorded music, for instance, was the phonograph.
Well, it was 100 odd years ago we started recording music.
Yeah. 130, it was 1877, I think.
Alexander Graham Bell?
Thomas Edison.
Oh, was it Thomas Edison?
Yeah.
I
think.
I don't know anything about it.
I don't know if that's true. But
Barry James. His name was Barry James. Yeah. And the other guys, they just stole it. Yeah.
And then after that, it was like, hey, we can record speech. We can record anything. We can have it so that we can listen to it later. Then it comes. Then the evolution goes right through. How can we make it domestically available? Can we get these players in everyone's house? What do they look like? How expensive are they? We can put it onto lacquer now. We can, hey, that's pretty cheap. And then it turns into digital audio. Comes in the 40s or 30s.
Oh, digital?
Digital.
That early?
Yeah. It started out with PCM. It's called, I think. Yeah, anyway, I'm not a historian on all this stuff. I'm not.
What he means is he's just making it up.
Pulse.
No.
Pulse coded modulations or something. I'm not sure, but that became, and it keeps going on. DAT players.
Yep.
They've always been changing. The way that people listen to music is like the CD probably had the best life of all of them. Well, besides vinyl, I guess. And you go, that was 20, 30 years, and CDs, 79, 80, something like that.
Yeah.
And they're all but gone. They're still being made. Yeah. People are just consuming music differently. So if you want to be part of it, then you have to accept it.
Yeah. You want to be part of it, you have to be part of it.
Yeah. And I know that, is this going on Facebook? There'll be comments happening right now. People will be typing, going, well, I still listen to CDs and I still buy them from the artist. And I go, yes, that's awesome. That is great. It's just that the products keep changing.
Yep.
So, and people go, I like the record cover. And you go, yeah, cool. Like, there's a lot of people that don't, like, there's a lot of minimalists out there now. Like, that's now very much a thing. They don't like stuff. I
got to say, so I don't like to drop this as in I'm a freaking legend or anything, but I've just started going out with a girl who lives in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yep.
Right? There's no CDs.
No.
Like, there's no records on a shelf.
Yeah.
Right? There's like a clothes rack and there's some stuff in the kitchen, and I walk in there, and so the reason I bring that up is like, we're going to move in together.
Yeah.
Where are we going to go?
Mm-hmm.
And I've said, well, why don't you move in with me? Because I could move you with one trip with a trailer. If I move in with you, we both have to move because we have to move to a different house.
Yeah.
And it takes a week because I've got stuff. Like, not just furniture for a house, but it's like, well, I've got 3 trips worth of musical instruments.
Yeah.
And I've got 4 bookshelves and 3 CD shelves. And it's like, I am the person that goes, I still buy CDs.
Yeah, yeah. And I still do too.
Yeah.
Like, usually as a support thing or as I'm going to, I want to know about this record.
Yeah. I want to see who played on what. And
totally. And we're streaming and videos and things, like the content that people demand is very different now as well. Like I remember when I was playing in bands when I was just out of high school and we were writing our own music and getting ready to put songs out and all that sort of stuff. Like, there was no thought for a music video because what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Like,
where's it going to go?
You're probably not going to get paid on video
YouTube.
hits.
Yeah.
And YouTube was probably around, but people hadn't worked out the potential of it. And I feel like with streaming, people haven't worked out the potential of it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's there's certain things that, of course, I disagree with. Like, I don't think that Spotify need $2 million office spaces and things like that. Look, fair enough. But also the other thing, and this is a little bit of a controversial point. Like people go, and the royalties are nothing. And you go, all right, cool. Well, there's X amount of money generated, and there's a lot of artists. There's more artists than ever before now because if you got an iPhone, you got a recording studio.
Yeah.
And
we have a film studio with 3 iPhones. Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's how you have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do
absolutely.
a 3-camera podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I just think that, like, you found some amazing music. A friend of mine showed me this artist yesterday called Robert Finley, and it was some of the greatest music I've ever heard. I had no idea he existed. Yeah. I think Brandon found him on Spotify. Yeah, but you got to wade through a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And so when that money is getting divvied up, at least in the record company days, and we can all love to hate record companies, at least there was somebody going, hey, we're experts. We'll say if it's good enough to go out or not.
100%. Yeah.
And so with the distribution of funds as well, like, I actually think the Spotify payments are probably not too bad, because the other thing that gets absolutely no due credit is the fact that so you get played on Triple J and you get $5 in your bank account for it, or whatever that royalty is. Triple J would have 2 million weekly listeners. I think.
Imagine something like that.
Yeah, I think that might be a few years old, but a lot of listeners. Anytime that your track gets played, there's every chance it could be being played to 100,000 people.
Yeah.
More probably. I don't know.
Yep.
You're dealing with an audience for one. So how do you pay a royalty for an audience of one?
Well, I've got a vibe on that.
Go.
Right.
I love this.
And we can talk sport too on this.
Yeah.
So I can solve all the AFL's problems.
Oh yeah, right. Good luck, mate.
But That's a great thing about conversation is that it's like in the microcosm of the conversation, everything works to your advantage because nothing's actually happening. But there's two tiers of effectively earnings for Spotify. One's subscriber base that pay to have no ads, and there's the others who get it for free and they get to hear ads.
Yeah,
I kind of figure with the subscriber base is like whoever the subscriber is, whatever they listen to that month,
that's where their money goes.
Gets divvied up. So let's say hypothetically, I pay if it's $10, right, it might be $11.99 or whatever it is, but let's say it's $10, and I listen to 30 Lachlan songs, right, and 150 Doors songs, and 70 Britney Spears songs, right?
Yeah.
Now, chances are it's actually far more spread out, diverse, like it's 3 songs of this or 4 songs.
Pretty offended that we got 30 and Brittany got 70, just to let you know.
Well, I only discovered you on the second last day.
Okay.
Yeah. And I haven't worked out how to have sex to Lachlan songs just yet, but Britney's Toxic, that's a good beat.
Dom Italiano.
That's right. I'm not a great comedy sketch writer, but on the fly, I'm not good either. And so let's say whatever that amounts to is 300 listens.
Yeah.
Well, then my $10 gets split 300 ways and you guys get 30, they get 150 and they get 70. 70 like bits. So my pie gets split up like that and it goes out. Surely they can write, because the thing that's clearly not happening right now is what they're doing is like, most people don't listen to a lot of music on Spotify. Like some people listen to all day, every day, and some people turn it on 3 times a month.
Sure, yeah.
Right, so that $10 from me, if I only turn it on 3 times a month to listen to 30 songs, right?
Where you got your value, that's where your dimes are going.
That should go. So let's say I only listen to your song once, you should get $10 of me.
Yeah,
my
right.
$10 or whatever, once Spotify take their cut.
Yeah.
That's what I reckon should happen. And I reckon what that would mean is that the data that different artists could then access would be very much like how Netflix is able to allocate budget to producing stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, well, we know that we've got a core audience that likes this kind of vibe and that kind of vibe. We're going to do a remix of this, or we're going to do an acoustic version of that because it's like that hits with that. And I just think that there's scope. That's what I love about the idea of Spotify and even Apple Music and stuff like that is the potential for the data to help
absolutely.
the industry is currently underutilized because, as you said, it's really new.
Yeah. And it'll get there. Like, you know, if you listen to any industry expert... Industry expert is that's funny, but if, like they're all like, sit with this. This is this is coming. Like,
I also like you and I are not very close friends. We've only known each other for about a year, but we're fast friends in that sense. We
When you said we're not close friends,
no, I just mean it's not. We don't have like 15 years of history. We got together. We're like, this guy. That's a good guy. But there's an aspect I feel like with what I wanted to say with people is talking to Spotify royalties and stuff like that. It's just like people assume that because someone's listened to something, that the listener got some value out of it.
Yeah.
There's a really good chance that I listened to the new Justin Timberlake song. And I listened to it because it was his song. And I went, never listen to that again.
Yeah.
He doesn't deserve my 0.3 cents because I thought it was shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And just because something got played or utilised doesn't necessarily mean it has any value. Because things only have value if the person assigns some value to it. And I think there's this idea that artists have about, I created this thing, so therefore it has value to me, therefore it should have value to anyone else.
Absolutely.
And that's a bit of a hurdle that we need to get over about. If it's your choice as an artist to create something, then people will say, how much should I sell my CD for? It's like, and my vibe is whatever anyone will pay for it. What if I lose money? That probably just goes to show what people value for it. And it's like, and in the initial stages, or if you don't have a big following, the idea is you are going to lose money effectively, and
absolutely.
But are you creating this thing to make money? Because if you're doing that thing to create money, maybe that's the wrong impetus.
Absolutely.
Do you want to recoup your costs? That would be nice. Do you need to? Because that was the point of the project. You need to reevaluate maybe.
And this is what, and it goes back to the title of the podcast, the sustainable creative, is I think that people would do well to recognise how amazing so much of the recording industry is now.
As in how incredible the artists are, or just the technology?
No, the fact that you can do it. Like there's every chance that's, if it was the 60s and you had to, the 50s and you're knocking on Sam Phillips' door and you're going, can I please be on Sun Records? Can you make my record? There's a good chance that incredible singers that have records out today would not be allowed in that studio. There used to be this extraordinarily high standard for you to be allowed to make something that you see the value in. Yeah. To be allowed near the recording equipment. Whereas now, if you have an idea, if you feel something, if you have a rhyme, or if you're learning guitar and you go, hey, these sound pretty good, and you write some lyrics and it means something to you, and you should record it because you can.
Well, there's that. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
it doesn't necessarily mean that the masses are going to start kissing your ass for it, and that's the bit that artistic types, like creatives, us.
Yeah.
That's the bit that we have a hard time negotiating in our brain. Like, you go, I made this record. It took me 2 months to make this record. And the band rehearsed for a year before it, and they wrote all the songs, and now it's out, and I don't understand why people don't like it.
Even that, there's so much about the social psychology that you can really delve into. It's like the idea of whether I'm Too Sexy, as a song. I listen to I'm Too Sexy now. I remember when it came out, I thought it was abhorrent, and I still think it is. But I can look at it now from the point of view of where it's sat in the context of releasing that with those guys dressed like that, with the music video, with the sound of those drums, the idea of the parody that I didn't see back then.
Yeah.
About I'm a model, you know what I mean?
I
do my little turn on the camera. You're just I'm cringing back then, but now I look at it and just go, that's really clever.
Yeah.
And I get how subversive the humor is, and I get why people loved it, particularly if they were prancing around on the dance floor to the song. Whereas back then it was just this is terrible. Doesn't mean. Back to what I said at the start about the Justin Timberlake song, maybe I'm not ready. And that's the thing about music as well. Is maybe
there's two sides of that coin, definitely.
Yeah, maybe your act isn't, maybe your album that you just suggest. Do people not like it, or is it just the fact that because of now the waters are so diluted with so many acts, people only can have attention to listen to this, that, or the other, and when maybe back, let's say the 80s, I try to say to people that there were 3 rock albums a year that came out, and then next year so it was Whitesnake, Alice Cooper, and Bon Jovi, and then 6 to 12 months later was Poison, Guns N' Roses, Warrant, and then 6 to 12 months later was another one, and then those other bands on a 3-year cycle got to release their next record. Def Leppard took 2 years to make a record.
Yeah.
And so you're we were just all starved. We want the next record. And now it's just we're contending with, as listeners, anyone can release anything anytime, but it's also, we also have the back catalogue of all that great music.
Yes.
If nobody else created music ever again,
yeah, there'd be a lot of good music.
How much music have we got? Still got a never-ending catalogue of incredible music.
So much. Yeah.
It's a great thing to think about being a sustainable creative. The idea of it is like, what are you doing it for?
Definitely.
You're not. You've got to know. And
absolutely.
And the idea of, well, I want to connect with so many people. Like, yep. Is so many people 10,000 or is it 25? Because 25 is a lot of people to give you their 3.5 minutes. Yeah. It actually really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when people do, you get the idea of viral videos got 100 million views and you go, that's hen's teeth rare.
Yeah,
you know, like just because it happens to those guys. Like,
and the other thing as well is that there's often with the viral video, there's something like that person's video might have, when you look at the support of friends, like think back to high school.
Yeah.
Like we used to get our CDs printed when we were in our punk rock bands in high school, and we would like give them to our mates mostly. Yeah. Like, but some of our mates would be like, no, I'm buying this thing, and there was this support. These days in the modern high school, like if you're a kid now, to show the really talented guy or girl who sang a song at assembly an enormous amount of support would be to share their video.
Yeah, of course.
And so those viral videos, you don't just dump them on YouTube and hope that somebody discovers them. They start by being shared. Yeah. And it might be because they're an incredible singer, or it might be because they're an incredibly terrible singer, or it might be because like the introduction was hilarious, or it might be because the principal kept scratching his nuts behind it, or or
so glad I'm not a teacher.
Yeah, like you're constantly on display. Like there's any number of reasons that a video goes viral, but it will generally start from something, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is why for bands now, like it's the roles have really reversed. The record label used to like getting bands to tour because, I'm not an expert on ticket prices or record prices or whatever, but the cost of a record, it kind of hit $20-25 in the mid-90s or something like that, and it pretty much stayed there forever.
Yeah.
But in the mid-90s, $25 was probably some of the cheap seats at the gig. So so the label used to send their acts on tour to sell the record.
Yeah.
Hey, look, everyone's making dimes, and the band gets some money from the tour and all that sort of stuff. Whereas now, like, you get these acts that are touring and trying to tour pretty cheap shows, even the big ones.
Yeah.
And $160 is, like to get in and have a peek, and it's just like, I put my record out and I made my video, and I've got to recoup that because that's selling my tour.
Of course, yeah.
So it's just a world gone backwards.
Well, that's really interesting. Because I very rarely buy a ticket for a big name act.
Show. Yeah.
And if I do, it's pretty much last minute and the last ticks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the last big ticket I bought was Keith Urban, last minute, and it was $100.
Yeah.
Right, which was about half price. And there were many tickets that available at that price.
Yeah.
It was an incredible show. He was remarkable. His band was great.
He's an excellent
sounded phenomenal.
Yeah.
At Rod Laver. And I bet that's a feat in itself to get that place to sound phenomenal.
Yeah.
I couldn't, it was like, well, in a way, I was like, actually, that was worth paying double the price for.
Yeah.
But there's still that element of me. It's like that, and I do have that, I guess, aspect of, for me, with my experience, so many of my friends are great musicians, and if I took a night off on a Friday night to go to their CD launch, for example, well, that would be a $200 ticket for me because I'm not earning it.
Absolutely.
But they're great musicians too.
Yeah.
And I would know I would walk out of there going, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I think I don't look at, although I have great respect and I do like a lot of particularly early Keith Urban stuff, I kind of understand what's happening on that stage as a musician. So I'm not in awe of it. Like someone who's not a musician and just like, wow, Keith Urban's incredible. Which he is. I'm not saying
Yeah.
But like I can go to the Tote and go, that's super comparable to Keith Urban for me. Like with that band and that act. It's just that it's not at that level. On that production level. But what you're saying about having to go on tour because, well, they don't make the money off the records, but they still have to make the music video.
Yeah.
And they still have to have...
And make the records.
And make the records because, they can be super expensive.
Yeah.
It's really... You don't really think about that, whereas there used to be this big pool of money from selling the record. It's just dried up. There's no pool of money from selling it.
And with more and more bands being independent, the other thing that you'll notice is it's such a slow build in terms of venue. In terms of the venue that the artist plays, and I'm not talking about my band here. I'm talking about the biggest artists in the world and stuff. Do you remember you'd be watching The Simpsons and there'd be the Michael Chugg Presents ads?
Yes.
And it would just be like, get your ticket, available now from Frontier or whatever. And the reality is that everybody is so cautious about the size room that they book on tour. If it goes really it's a sort of thing where
you'd rather sell 1,000 seats than undersell 1,500.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. Okay. So for example, I've seen Ryan Adams twice in the last 3 or 4 years, 3 years, I think. And the first time was at the Forum. And besides it being a great show, I'm like, this is strange because it's full. It's really full. And then he announced another gig. And then the next time he came back, it was Margaret Court Arena.
Right.
With a higher ticket price. I know these people are going to come.
Yeah.
But it's a slow thing. Like in your head, you kind of go, well, his song was getting played. We knew that his song was getting played on Triple M a lot at the time, and there was and you go, well, he could just about book any Melbourne venue, maybe, I don't know, and then you see him at the Forum and you go, don't get me wrong, it's still a big room.
It's great. And a beautiful room. See,
it's very beautiful room.
It's interesting for me about touring acts. I would assume, I'm not a touring act, but I would assume the choice of the room is essential for a gig. So I would prefer, my idea, I'm not budgeting or all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'd prefer to play 2 nights in a row at the Forum and divvy up whatever those costs are, then play one night at Margaret Court, because Margaret Court Arena is a tennis place.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm standing on stage, and I've done a gig on that stage.
It sounds pretty good in Margaret Court.
I've stood on stage at the Forum before it was renovated, but it was still glorious. It was
amazing.
I am singing beautifully in here. There's something about that.
And
I've stood on stage at Rod Laver and just gone, wish I was a tennis player. I'd be smashing this. Something about it. This is weird to me. Now, of course,
losing the intimacy and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think a massive...
You mean pipe dreaming? Oh, if I was...
a massive part that I think has to play, and again, I don't know this, I don't know what everyone's earning, but my opinion would be that everybody just has to be so careful of their touring now because you can't have a packed out run and show up and the last 2 nights of it, we just committed to those extra shows just a little bit too much. That's a financial disaster. And you don't have record money to...
Well, I imagine too, you're absolutely right that those things are right. Well, we made that off those 4 shows, but because we undersold that, we actually only made that much money.
Yeah.
Which means that, we have to come back.
Yeah.
Real soon.
Yeah. And this is me just being hypothetical, really,
of course,
because I don't have any data to support this. This is just little observations in the back of my brain. I go, maybe everybody, you know, is having to pay close attention, you know, like, and it's not just, you know, the indies that go, all right, cool, we're going to do a run, you know, we might lose a few $100, but it's, you know, but, you know,
but
we
even
might sell a few records, who knows?
Even the difference between making a music video with an iPhone, with your brother doing it, and then, you know, you cutting together a video so that effectively it cost you nothing apart from, you know, the fact that it's your phone on a plan that you're using anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you go, right, I'm going to do this type of video for this song and drop $4 or $5 grand on it, and you go, I'm never going to make the money back off that song. At this level of
no.
And this song,
that's right.
Basically, what I should actually do is pay my brother $5 grand to make me 25 videos over the next 2 years. Because then I got stuff coming out all the time, and then maybe what that does is build up. Like, that last thing I enjoyed.
But then the most important thing, like, and again, like we keep going back to the title of the podcast, the sustainable creative. Like, yes, that appeals to one of those words.
Yeah.
But then the other part of it is nobody these days is going to set your own standards for you.
Oh, that's so good.
Oh, really?
That is like that.
I think I just invented that.
That's so good. No one's going to set your own standards for you.
Yeah.
Like you are.
Like that's all on you. And,
you are.
And whatever you want to do, if you want to, if you're going to make your own records, or if you're going to spend heaps making it sound amazing because, you know, that's the thing that you care about, but the visual presentation might or you don't notice that the visual presentation isn't where quality is, or like you just got to set your own standards in every corner. I believe, you know, and that even comes down to when I'm working as a producer and I'm getting paid. Like there are times that it's like where the artist goes, all right, cool. So we've got these last 2 days mixing. I'm like, yeah, cool. And I could burn through it.
Yeah.
And put out something that, you know, try to mix an album in 2 days or whatever. But the reality is I know, and I know that for me, I don't want that going out. So I would rather spend a bit of time on the Saturday, you know, and go, look, you're not leaving with a final like today. I'm just going to put a little bit extra in because I know that you set the budget, but I'm also setting my standards.
And you've got your that's not even you putting your name to it publicly. That's you putting your name to it to yourself. You're still setting your own standards.
Well, like we were talking about before, the record covers are just about gone now. So it's like the producers aren't doing it for the name in lights or anything like that. Like we're all doing it because we like music and we like good music to our ears. You know, like there's, you know. And that's subjective too.
It's cool. No one's gonna set your own standards for you. I'm getting you put that on a T-shirt with your name underneath it. That's great. It's so good.
Awesome.
I think we're an hour and 10, which is good. It's a good length podcast. Yeah. But I don't think I can think anymore now that that's in my brain.
Okay.
I don't think I can ask you more questions like, I need to mull that over.
Yeah, right.
That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me at your place.
Pleasure.
And it was well worth the drive from Lara. It's a beautiful drive. Well, it's not a beautiful drive at all.
The first portion of it is beautiful.
Do you know what? If you've got Lachlan Bryan and the Wilds to listen to on the way here, it's a beautiful drive. I had a good listen to it, and it's a good car. It's a good car record.
Yeah.
Yeah, good driving music.
I'm glad you like it.
I've had a lovely day.
Yeah.
Both with you and with your sounds.
So excellent. Thank you
so much.
Pleasure.
I reckon we'll probably end up revisiting a future conversation. We might get Lachlan involved and
love to. I'm sure he'd love to.
Yeah.
He loves talking. That's a joke.
We're not cutting that out. That's going to be my promo. That's going to be my promo for this episode. He loves talking. No, it's good. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
I'll see you again soon.
See you soon.
All right.
All right.
Cheers, man.